surprised to see me, aren't you? Come on now. I know you know who I am. You don't have to play coy anymore. I know you don't think I know, but let me tell you, you just gotta trust me when I say, I know. Well, I've tried to tell you before, after the first couple times I've tried to tell you after the first couple of times after I realized that you had something to do with all this. Well, not something to do with all this. I think I would have figured it out by now if you were actually involved, if you caused all this, but yeah, the tree falls. The tree falls every morning at 8:15 a.m. The tree falls on the picket fence near the doghouse, which startles the dog enough to rip itself from its chain leash out clean off from the doghouse, and then it runs into the street, and then bada bing, bada boom, we go to class. Do you trip in the cafeteria while approaching my lunch table? I trip in the cafeteria trying to help you at 12:19 p.m. We wash off in separate bathrooms where I am rendered a harlot and mocked by my peers. Then blah blah blah, yada yada yada, vehicular manslaughter, and then... Buddy, I'm in a time loop. See, this is what I mean. This is the support I'm getting here. I'm lucky that you at least have a variety of answers depending on what time of day you run into me, but it's never supportive. And frankly, I feel like I deserve a little support. It's been a rough month. The worst part about being in a time loop is that I didn't even realize I was in one for the first couple of days of it. I mean, how sad is that? If you just miss out on the little incredulousness of little moments every day, your life just begins to bleed together. Just because I missed the pine tree toppling one morning doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means that I missed it. It means that my experience was just made a little less amazing. Of course, by the normal logic of how your life generally seeps together, you didn't miss any particular beats. Whatever you might have missed is just that particular experience for the day. And that's how you'll remember it. It's no longer a day where that rotting old tree was silently on its last legs and toppled a few feet away from you while you walked to school, where you're forced to think that if you were seconds slower, you would have surely been crushed. It's just a day where you just happened to oversleep and ran into a rotten log in your path. I mean, think about it. Miss enough of those little incredulous moments, and you're trapped in the haze. It took me until the fourth day to really pick up on the fact that the days were looping the way that they were. To be fair, you gotta understand that after some point, it becomes less about being imperceptive and more about the fact that being in a time loop is usually the last conclusion somebody would jump to while enduring a time loop, without enough evidence to qualify otherwise. I just thought I was depressed! Which, honestly, makes your lack of support just so much more disappointing. I mean, I know we don't really talk, but I'd believe if you were in a time loop, it's just such an outrageous car. It's just such an outrageous thing to lie about at this point in our lives, you know? I mean, it's not like we're kids anymore. We're not, but time... I don't know. Time just has its way of making you feel like a child, you know? I've relived the same day for over a month, and yet I still feel like I haven't gotten it right. I don't think I'll get it right today either, but it doesn't have to be right. At this point, I think it just has to end. Maybe it'll be a storybook ending, maybe it won't. But I think simply having an ending at all would be enough. And I think I need you to help me finish it. It won't be perfect. It won't be pure or clean, but it'll be raw. It'll still be raw for me because I trust you to be still untainted by the influence of the clock. You're connected to it, sure, but it does not hold your leash. I know why the time loop keeps happening today. I know why I believe you to be so thoroughly connected to it. I know why it feels like it's always been about you, and I know why. Exactly why. The one day I just so happened to miss the bus and walk the same path you do to school, the collision in the lunchroom, the mockery of our friends, and the... Today was going to be the day that you confessed to me. That's what's so special about today. Isn't it? Isn't it? I know you want to deny it, but I've seen your bag. I've seen the note. I know. You have to know that I know. I bet the minute I went on my hated nonsense about time meeting all its children and the end and the nonsense and the repeating of cycles, you knew that I knew. But what you never got the chance to know was that every morning since I started this time loop, I've always been so late that I leave my room without even thinking about my note. The one that I left on my desk. The one that I wrote for you. I didn't forget it this time, at least. Maybe living like that. In denial despite our mutual knowledge, in spite of our shared distance that we refuse to breach, lest we be forced to acknowledge that if we broached the distance once more, we could again, and again, and again, until there was nothing between us but the flesh and blood and bone that allows us to be anyone to anyone except each other. It's the same as living in a loop. A time loop. Where every day can flow together no matter what we do to try to change our circumstances. Because we're just so unwilling to change us. I know what we must do. I also know that there's a day that I've experienced 3 times now that's just begging to happen all over again. And strangely enough, as much as I feel the same I do every morning, in which I want to run into the woods and hide, I also don't want to miss a single minute of this day now that I know I might finally have something to look forward to at the end of it. I can confess to you, and then you can confess to me. That should be the thing that breaks the loop. It's all so simple now that I'm thinking about it. But I can't help but feel like it's almost too easy. Too easy. Oh. Car! See you tomorrow for round 32. Oh, you try to get it right this time. Faster. Much faster.